The air in Delphi, Indiana, carries a weight that the maps don't show. It is a town defined by its quietude, a place where the rustle of dry winter leaves and the distant whistle of a freight train are the only things that break the silence. For generations, this was a sanctuary of Midwest safety. People didn't just know their neighbors, they knew their neighbors' parents. Doors were left unlocked, not out of negligence, but out of a profound, collective trust in the community. But on February 13th, 2017, that trust didn't just break, it shattered. It was a Monday, an unusually warm winter day. School was out for a snow day that had no snow, and for two best friends, it was a day for adventure. 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German, Abby and Libby, were typical teenagers. They were full of life, laughter, and that invincible sense of youth. They decided to go for a hike on the Monon High Bridge, a towering, rusted relic of the railroad era that spans the deep ravine of Deer Creek. As they walked across those weathered wooden planks, 60 feet above the water, they were doing what any girls their age would do, taking photos, sharing stories, and posting to Snapchat. One photo, posted by Libby, showed Abby walking across the bridge. It looked like a moment of pure, innocent freedom. But somewhere in the shadows of those woods, an apex predator was watching. A man in a blue jacket and a flat cap was closing in. And within hours, Delphi would become the center of a mystery that would haunt the world for over half a decade. 1:30 to 4. The vanishing and the first dread. When 5:30 p.m. arrived and the girls didn't show up at their pickup spot, the first seeds of panic were sown. In Delphi, a child being late usually means a dead phone battery or losing track of time in the woods. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the temperature began to plummet, the town's casual concern turned into a frantic, large-scale search. Hundreds of volunteers joined the police. Flashlights cut through the pitch-black Indiana woods. The name Abby and Libby echoed through the trees, met only by the cold winter wind. The Monon High Bridge, once a place of beauty, now loomed like a dark skeleton over the searchers. The night was long, filled with a cold, biting dread that no one wanted to vocalize. The next morning, February 14th, Valentine's Day, the search resumed with a grim intensity. Around noon, the news everyone feared broke through the scanners. 2 bodies had been found on the north bank of Deer Creek, about half a mile from the bridge. The search was over, but the nightmare was just beginning. The scene was described by investigators as strange, a term that would later fuel years of speculation. There was no immediate sign of a struggle that the public was told about. There were whispers of signatures left behind, the kind of details that only a truly depraved mind could conceive. The town of Delphi was no longer a sanctuary, it was a crime scene. 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. The digital witness, Libby's heroism. As investigators processed the scene, they discovered something that would change the course of criminal history. Libby German, in her final moments of life, had done something extraordinary. Sensing the danger approaching them on that narrow bridge, she didn't just panic. She had the presence of mind, the sheer, heroic grit to pull out her smartphone and hit record. Hidden in the pocket of her jeans, the phone captured the monster. A grainy video showed a man with a heavy, awkward gait walking toward them on the bridge planks, but the phone captured something even more chilling, his voice. a low, commanding, gravelly tone that uttered three simple words: down the hill. This was the bridge guy. For years, those three words and that pixelated image would be the only clues the world had. Libby German had recorded her own killer. She had provided the police with a digital witness from beyond the grave. Investigators would later say that Libby was a hero, that she had the courage of a veteran detective in the body of a 14-year-old girl. She knew they were in trouble, and she made sure the world would see who did it. But as weeks turned into months, the heroism of Libby German met the harsh reality of a stalled investigation. The video was too grainy. The voice was too short. Thousands of tips flooded the FBI and the Indiana State Police. Sketches were released. First, an older man with a goatee, then, 2 years later, a completely different sketch of a much younger man. The public was confused. The internet was on fire. Delphi became a breeding ground for armchair detectives and true crime enthusiasts who picked apart every frame of the video, every syllable of the audio. Yet, the bridge guy remained a ghost. 7 o'clock to 10:30. The 5-year void, rabbit holes and false leads. For 5 long years, the families of Abby and Libby lived in a state of suspended grief. The investigation seemed to disappear into a series of dark rabbit holes. There was Ron Logan, the owner of the property where the bodies were found, who died before he could be fully cleared or charged. There was the Anthony_Padilla45 Snapchat profile, a fake account used by a paedophile named Keegan Kline to solicit girls in the area. The world held its breath, thinking the link had finally been found. But as Kline sat in prison for other crimes, the Delphi case remained unsolved. The community of Delphi tried to heal. They built a park, the Abby and Libby Memorial Park, a beautiful space with softball fields and playgrounds. But the shadow of the bridge was always there. The town was haunted by the possibility that the killer was still walking among them. Was he at the grocery store? Was he at the gas station? Was he watching the news reports about his own crimes? The psychological profile of the bridge guy was that of a man who knew the terrain. He knew the bridge. He knew where the girls would be trapped. He was comfortable in the woods. Investigators pleaded with the public. Someone knows this man. Look at his gait. Listen to his voice. He is someone's father, someone's husband, someone's neighbor. But the silence from the public was deafening. It seemed as though the bridge guy had committed the perfect crime, despite being caught on camera. 10:30 to 13:30. The breakthrough. The unspent shell casing. The breakthrough didn't come from a high-tech satellite or a secret informant. It came from a revisit to the very beginning. In October 2022, the state of Indiana was rocked by an announcement. An arrest had been made. The suspect wasn't a drifter or a high-profile criminal. It was Richard Allen, a 50-year-old man who lived right in Delphi. He worked at the local CVS pharmacy. He had processed photos for the families. He had even lived just miles from the Monon High Bridge. He was the definition of hiding in plain sight. The evidence that led to his arrest was a masterclass in forensic persistence. When the bodies were found in 2017, investigators discovered an unspent .40 caliber bullet lying between the girls' bodies. Using modern ballistics technology, they were able to link that specific bullet to a Sig Sauer pistol owned by Richard Allen. Allen had actually spoken to the police back in 2017, admitting he was on the bridge that day, wearing clothes that matched the bridge guy description. But in the chaos of the early investigation, his statement was misfiled and forgotten for 5 years. When detectives finally circled back, the pieces of the puzzle fell into place with a sickening thud. The man who had been helping people at the pharmacy, the man who was a quiet neighbor, was allegedly the monster from the bridge. Richard Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder. The trial would reveal even darker details, confessions allegedly made to his wife in jailhouse calls, admissions of guilt that painted a picture of a man haunted by what he had done, yet desperate to stay free. 1330 to 1500. Epilogue: the victory of the recorded voice. As we look back at the Delphi murders, we are faced with the chilling reality of evil, but more importantly, we are reminded of the power of the truth. Richard Allen sits in a cell awaiting the final judgment of the law. The Monon High Bridge has been renovated, its old wooden planks replaced with safe, sturdy metal. But the legacy of this case doesn't belong to the killer. It belongs to Liberty German and Abigail Williams. It belongs to the girl who had the bravery to press record when her life was on the line. Libby's phone didn't just capture a crime, it captured a predator's downfall. Every time that grainy video plays, every time we hear "down the hill," we are hearing the sound of justice refusing to be silenced. In the end, Delphi is reclaiming its peace. The park is full of children's laughter. The families have shown a level of grace and strength that is nothing short of miraculous. The bridge guy tried to take everything from this town, but he failed, because in the heart of a 14-year-old girl there was a light that even the darkest woods couldn't extinguish. Pause. Justice took 5 years. It took thousands of hours of work. It took a single unspent bullet. But most of all, it took the courage of Libby and Abby. We will never forget their names. We will never forget their bravery. Pause. Down the hill. The truth has finally come home.